Guys of Reddit, what's the most obvious hint from a girl you've missed? We were at my house studying for an organic chemistry exam. Both of us were sitting close at the table with my laptop in front. I was talking her through the mechanisms and such, and she would lean on me and lay her head on my shoulder as I kept going. She wrapped her arms on mine as I kept blabbering on. I thought I was massively friend-zoned, which is why I didn't think much of it. We took a break to watch a movie and she suggested we spooned on the couch. I'm so friend-zoned that she's comfortable spooning with me, I thought to myself. She probably grew impatient that I wasn't picking up the signs. So out of nowhere, she does a 180 and starts making out with me. Been together for 2 years now. Gee, I'm so cold. Me, make some hot milk. Gee, what will you do if you are here? Me, make you some hot milk. Gee, what if you and me are alone? Me, make 2 cups of hot milk. I got dumped the second day, so I cried and made hot milk. Went to a party, was hitting it off with a girl I knew through some social circles. She was cute and a ton of fun, but I had to take off after a few hours. The party was in a friend's apartment in the same building I lived in at the time. She was following me out, saying she needed to leave as well. We both called the elevator and just kept small talk flirting going on in the elevator. I got to my floor and she said that she thinks she forgot her jacket at my apartment. At this point I didn't catch what was going on, so I told her that she's never been to my apartment. I only realized what the hell was going on after the elevator doors closed. Edit 1. Wow, this blew up a lot more than I expected it to. And it came from the time when I cock-blocked myself. And to those that are asking, yes, I'm a bit clueless when it comes to any sort of relationships or social cues. I try to make an effort, but growing up, I moved around a lot, so I never really picked up seeing social cues until I hit college, which still makes dating a bit messy in my life. Yay. Edit 2. Oh wow. Gold. Thank you, kind stranger. First gold ever, and it came from me sharing the story on how I derailed my own D. Still awesome though. Was watching a movie together on a couch and she went to lay her head on my lap. I got up to get her a pillow and blanket and set her up on the other end of the couch. In my defense, it was the first time watching The Matrix. We took anatomy and biology in college. We used to study together. I mentioned that I had an inguinal hernia that I was having surgery on in a few weeks. She asked to see. I explained that it was right down beside my scrotum. She said she didn't care and was curious to see what it felt like. I undid my pants and pulled my underwear aside enough that she could see. She reached in and cupped my balls and had me cough so she could feel the effect. She palpated around my junk feeling the hernia. The whole time I was concentrating very hard on other things. I assumed this was a professional curiosity. Okay, you're thinking. She could have just been curious and wanted nothing more. Then she asked if it got better or worse during a BJ. I replied that I hadn't been lucky enough to have my condition and a girlfriend simultaneously. She replied that I didn't need a girlfriend, just the right girl, all while gently cupping my scrotum. I looked at her, buttoned up, and said something about wishing I could find that person. Turns out she blew nearly every willing guy in the class, and a few of them ended up with MST. So as dumb as I was, I dodged a bullet. I had a girl ask me once if I wanted to sleep with her. It was nearly a year later that it occurred to me that she might have been serious. I was 17 and not worldly wise. Went back to her hall's dorm fairly late at night. I was examining her CDs. It was the 90s. This was one of the ways you assessed if someone was okay, and turned back round to find her sat on her bed in her underwear. I said, "Oh, sorry, you need to go to bed," and left. About 2 years later I was walking down the street when it finally clicked. She showed me her nipple piercing by removing her entire shirt and bra. I said, "Looks nice." She said, "Did you get a close look?" I said, "Yup, they did a good job." Shirt went back on. I was 22 and working as a cashier at Target. I rang out a very beautiful older woman. The kind of woman old stories are written about. I scan her items, pitch a red card, all the usual jazz. After I give her the receipt, I turn around to restock bags. When I turn back, she hands me the receipt. smiles, and walks away. I look at the receipt and she has written her phone number. Immediately, I yell, "Why did you write your phone number?" She comes back, takes the receipt, crumbles it up and says, "If you have to ask, you're not ready." Walks away. I explained to one of my co-workers, and he hit me. Her, "Want to share a taxi back to my place?" Me, "Sure, I can drop you off then go home myself." Woke up in the middle of that night and knew exactly what I'd done. A girl, my crush at the time, and I were at my cabin alone for a night and all of our friends were coming out the next day. When we first arrived she said, "I call that bed," and I told her, "But that's my bed." She then jokingly said, "Well then I guess we're sleeping together." Sure enough, she throws her pillow on my bed and lays down. I then lay down beside her on my side away from her. I was incredibly awkward and uncomfortable about the whole thing. I can hear her moving and shuffling and then I twitched my leg a little bit and touched her leg. She had gotten very close to me. I immediately apologized and moved closer to the edge of the bed. I felt like she was just messing with me because she knew I liked her. About 3 years later she told me she kinda wanted to mess around with me but thought I didn't want to duck me, but she didn't. I used to flirt with one of the female bartenders at a bar I worked at. It was really fun and there were so many signs. The biggest one that I should have obviously taken was when we left work at about 4 AM and I tried tickling her. No reaction and then she says, "I'm only ticklish in one place." She then began to rub her inner thighs near her lady parts, basically giving me permission to go in and tickle her. I laughed and said, Oh, now I know how to torture you with tickles. I'll get you next shift." Drove home. On the way home, wow, did I realize what just happened. She did not like the denial and that door was closed forever, She told me I could share her bed that night. The next morning she had to explain that she had expected me to make a move but I was clueless. Much fun was had the second night. I was on a plane ride back from vacation one year when I was 16ish. I went to the front of the plane to use the restroom and as I'm walking back to my seat, this girl hands me a piece of paper and goes, "You dropped this." I'm 100% confident that I didn't have any paper in my pocket beforehand. So I politely say, "No, I didn't, but thank you." "Yes, you did. You dropped this," she says firmly. At this point, I'm irritated that this girl clearly doesn't realize that I'm more aware of the contents of my pockets than she is. So I tell her once again, in front of increasingly bewildered passengers, that I did not drop any paper. Her mom, I assume, laughs, and the poor girl, exasperated at this point, says just take the paper. So I say, fine, and return to my seat, where my parents laugh at me while I open the paper with her phone number on it and realize I'm the dumbest person I will ever meet. High school, 9th grade, aka freshman year. Super hot girl, my friend, and me are hanging out. We go back to her place because nobody is home. After a little bit, my friend says he has to go home and leaves. Me and hot girl are sitting on couch watching some crap on TV. She turns to me and says, "Wanna see my new swimsuit?" I thought for sure she meant she was going to go get it, bring it back, and hold it out to show it to me. That didn't sound interesting to me, so I said no thanks. A little while later I left. Realized what happened about 5 years later. Another time. I'm 22. Playing on a recreational sports team. I would usually drive this one girl on our team home afterwards. On one of the drives, I mentioned that my hands were cold. It was winter. She says when my hands are cold, I usually put them between my legs. It's always warm down there. I thought about this for a moment and concluded that my pants were too thick to meaningfully warm my hands. I'll just put on some gloves, I guess. Thought nothing of it for years. A couple weeks later she tried again with, "Do you have a girlfriend?" "Nope. I can help you with that." She got through to me that time. It. Gold. You shouldn't have. A pair of girls came over to our apartment from next door. "Can we borrow a movie to watch?" We gave them a cool movie to borrow. And I looked at my roommate. We should have invited them in to watch us, right? Yes. Let's never tell anyone we were so clueless. You're welcome, Reddit. A girl once said to me, "Did you know that if people look you a lot in the eyes, it means that they either want to kiss or kill you?" And then she stared me down. I was very confused about why she would want to kill me if she had spent so much time talking with me. My best friend and I are talking on the phone. We spend a couple of hours that day talking about stuff that turns us on, and her very outsex toys. One of the things for her is the smell of cooking garlic. She then tells me she's cooking something with garlic in it. She eats whatever it is, making yummy noises while we're still on the phone. She then tells me she's going to get undressed and take a shower. She went out of her way to tell me she was leaving the front door unlocked. I said okay, talk to you later, and hung up the phone. A girl talked to me one time. The worst thing about this thread is that these are about 1% of the possible stories, as 99% of the time the guys haven't figured it out yet. First weekend studying abroad. It's the end of one of the best nights of my life, and myself and a girl from the program are wandering around trying to get one more beer before packing it in. Walking down a quiet side street, she starts talking about how tall I am, a topic I am very used to, and she confesses, "I've never kissed somebody as tall as you." My response: "Huh, I guess neither have I." I didn't realize until 2 weeks later when we took a weekend trip together that she had any kind of feelings for me. That was an awkward trip. On 2 separate occasions, girls have bought me drinks at the bar, and on both occasions, my dumb brain gets me to say oh thanks, then proceed to take the drinks and walk off. She complained about how long it had been since she'd been eaten out. It was 15 years ago and the memory still makes me cringe. I friend-zoned my damn self. Watching a movie at her place on her couch, she put her feet in my lap. I moved them off because her heels were slowly rubbing my D and balls and it was uncomfortable. I remember her sighing very loudly. A girl once told me that out of all the guys she knows I would be the only one she would date, and I responded saying sweet. When I was in HS, I was with a group of friends, all of us in a hot tub. This really cute girl, wearing a string bikini, sat in my lap, put her arms around my neck, and within 5 minutes, everyone else left the hot tub to go inside. She had told all of her friends that she wanted to bang me and to leave when she did this. What do I do? Maybe we should go inside with everyone else. Literally lock the door and lie next to me on a bed at a party. In my defense, at the time I never kissed a girl and I didn't think girls knew I existed yet. Before my boyfriend and I began dating, we always used to chit chat at my work. One day he mentioned his work gave him passes to go to the zoo and get a one-on-one with the new penguins. I love animals and I especially love penguins, so I kept mentioning how long it's been since I've been to the zoo and how much I love animals and how he's so lucky for getting passes. He thought nothing of it, and later on he and his buddy from wrestling went together. It wasn't till we actually got together that I asked why he didn't ask me to go with him, and his eyes got so big and he was like, "Wait, you wanted to go with me? OMG. You mean we could have perhaps started dating right then and there, dart, but what? But OMG, dart, so many months later and I finally asked you out, I'm an idiot. Do you still wanna go? Lomfeo. I swear some guys are so clueless. Bad on me too, though. I should have just asked if he wanted to go with me, lol. I was at a bar last weekend. Closing hours came around and the bartender asked us to drink up and get going. So she downs the rest of her beer, and I ask, "And how did that taste?" She answered, "Why don't you come find out?" I just huffed to myself, "Well, you already drank it all," and left. I am not a smart man. Once a girl took my pants off. Still didn't realize she wanted anything. She put her hand on my crotch while sitting next to me. Was taking a bartending class. This girl stood next to me every time we'd take our places behind the bar to make fake drinks. She was always really friendly. One time we got asked to make a drink for the person next to us. Girl looks right into my eyes and says, "I want you to give me a screaming orgasm." That's an actual drink. It was 100% a double entendres, but I didn't pick up on it until months later. "Can you give me a massage? Here, let me take off my sweater so it's easier," while not wearing a bra. It's like I was in a car accident or something. Oh boy. 1. Party is settling down and it's just the two of us. We're talking about random things, and I say, "I wonder what people back in the day did for fun." She responds, "They had sex." 2. End of the school year and all of the staff I was in RA for 2 years. Get together for a banquet. We're walking to the destination and one of the girls keeps running into me with her tits. I mean like 5+ times. 3. Girl on my floor and I get into the elevator together. After a bit of silence she turns to me and asks how do I look? There's probably a 1000 more. Reading this I'm surprised I'm not a virgin. This one prob sounds ludicrous but I was only 16 and a virgin at the time. Was staying over at my mate's house and found myself watching a film alone with his twin sister while he was already asleep in his own room. It was late-ish. She's wearing just a long t-shirt ready for bed. She says to me, "Ow, my pussy feels sore." She then throws herself back on the bed opening her legs at the same time and says, "Is it a bit red?" I had a very quick look and said, "Yeah, it's a bit red." Then just stood there as the silence grew awkwarder. After what seemed like ages she flipped herself back up and said, "You may as well duck off out of my room." I did kick myself afterwards about it but it came so out of the blue and happened so fast that I couldn't compute quick enough. She asked to watch TV in bed and got naked under the covers. Asked me if I thought she needed to shave her bikini zone and I was like, nah, that feels fine. It took her 2 hours until she just grabbed me. In my defense I had been awake 28 hours. Personally, as a female, I don't understand how me loudly engaging with everyone but you, avoiding eye contact with you and coyly, if not seductively, ignoring you does not scream for you to hump me immediately. I don't know how to live right. Edit. I'm obviously alluding to the fact that I suck at flirting. Evidently I suck at implying that through sarcasm as well. Basically, I suck. Which you would think would get me more men. Edit 2. I'm alluding not alluding. More suckage. I asked her for her number and she quickly scribbled it down and handed it to me. She was obviously excited that I asked. I texted her about a year later. As a guy reading so many comments, I have one question. Ladies of Reddit, what are your thoughts on these comments? Cute girl in college sent me an I'm old. That she heard I had a cool room and wanted to see it. I looked around at my Pier 1 decorations with pride and sent her a picture. Moron. Girl asked me if I wanted to play doctor. I told her I never heard of that and asked if it was on console or PC. Not that I've ever missed something as obvious as this. It's really more of a tip for other guys that aren't me that might miss it. If a girl says she used to have a crush on you, she still does. One girl grabbed me by the tie and pulled me on top of her onto the bed. I got up and apologized. Another time one girl kept telling me and another girl how attractive I was, and kept bringing up the fact, like, "Girl 2, how do you not see it? He's really cute." Then kept asking me to go back to mine but wouldn't tell me why. So I just told her maybe later. Hint, later never happened. Teenagers. Right around 14. Earlier that day she asked how big my D was. I was 1000% sure she was joking. So I said 16 feet. She laughed and said, "No really. How big is your D?" I said I lied. "It's only 15.5. Later that day she come over to me with a popsicle and basically started deep throating it while looking at me. Immediately thought, hey, I want a popsicle too. So I left, got an orange creamsicle, and played Metal Gear Solid 2 for a couple hours. In my defense, I did finally beat the fight against the Rays. We were alone at her place and she casually told me all girls like to be fondled, just not when everybody can see it. I was like, KTHX, I wouldn't know. She had her hand on my leg a lot. We were just chatting on the phone and she said we should go see a movie sometime. Me, I'm not a big movie guy. Her father owned an oil company. We were driving when she wanted me to compare how her boobs felt with and without a bra. Almost too embarrassed to admit that, but I still won after a few friend zone years. My roommate was a bit of a player. Hate saying that word but it's the best fit. Was seeing a girl in the US. Had a girlfriend in Japan. And was also macking it to the girl that lived across the hall. College dorm. She keeps coming to my room when he's gone to hang out. One day comes over with her pillow and says her neighbors are being too loud and she can't sleep. Then she curls up in my bed under my covers and asks me if I want to watch a movie. I sat at the end of the bed, watched a movie, then went and slept in my roommate's bed because mine was taken. Dumb. Dumb dumb dumb. For context, I ride a motorcycle. A very attractive co-worker once questioned me about my bike and asked a bunch of questions about it, also expressing interest in wanting to learn how to ride. At one point she asked me if I'd take her for a ride. Next thing I know she's wearing a promise ring and I felt like an idiot. Apparently this girl kept putting in sexual innuendos when she talked to me. All my friends told me this. I liked her and never noticed. Let the record show. Saying I'm cold is a terrible hint. Had a party while my parents were gone. End of the night I tell one friend to use my parents' bed and that this girl could use my bed and that I'd sleep on the floor in the living room. Another friend was already asleep on the couch. About 5 minutes later the girl comes out and asks me to sleep in my room because sleeping in new places makes her uncomfortable. I agree. Come in. Plop down on the floor. As soon as I do she says I can sleep in my bed with her. I tell her the floor is fine, but she keeps asking so finally I jump into bed. I'm wiggling around and complain about my back being sunburned. She says she'll rub aloe on it. I tell her it'll be fine, but she demands to, so I'm half naked. It feels great. She finishes. I thank her and go to sleep. It took me telling that story to my friend the next day before I understood what was going on. We ended up dating for a while and I got to get my D wet for the first time, so that was cool. But then she ended up crazy and immature.